Welcome back to Groove Diner After Dark. Wow, what a show last week was. I don't even know what to say about it. Hey, look at this already. Charles, how you doing? Good to see you, my man. How's everything down in South Africa? You doing all right today? Reggie, Texas is here saying hello. Good to see everybody. I hope that, I assume that everybody will join in as we go along here. So let's talk. I put this out and said, hey, I don't have the technical gear to do my normal show, and you guys know this is more than just a chat thing where there's drumming and there's videos and it's a whole production. So I don't have all of the new gear in place yet. So we're kind of doing a simplified version tonight. Let me talk to you a little bit about next week. Herman Matthews has generously volunteered to come back and be with us next week, so he will be here. I should have all the new gear up and running. It should be a full-blown production next week, and I'm really looking forward to that. So be sure you come back next week and hang out with me here at the Groove Diner. So let's talk a little bit. Yeah, that's right, Charles. It is an absolutely rocking team, no doubt about it. So Eli, let's have some questions. Here's what happened. I decided, hey, let's talk about what you want to talk about. Let's make this the It's Your Show. So you are going to drive the content tonight. And I've gotten, 15 or 20 questions. I don't know how many we'll get to tonight, but please, if you think of them as we go, don't hesitate to throw things in. But we're going to start with question number 1. How long have you been a drummer? Since I was 11. That's a long time now. Long enough that I've watched changes in the drum industry, changes in music 2 or 3 times. I was not particularly good when I was a kid. I was actually I wasn't really a prodigy at all. I was just a very normal kid when it came to that stuff. I tried my hand at a few other things, and drumming really stuck, and so I've been playing longer than a lot of people watching this have been alive, probably. It wouldn't surprise me. You'd think I'd be better, though, right? After all that time. I mean, you would think, man, if he's been doing it that long, holy cow. But anyway, hey, Keith Tenenbaum, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in tonight. I'm really glad to have you. So, Eli, can we get to question number 2, my friend? So without moving to LA or Nashville and posting a million drum cover videos, what is a good path of direction for a beginner studio to get noticed? Studio, not studio drummer, especially when the studio performer wants to do it the right way and without a handout. Wow. Okay. That's a big question. So, hey, Dave Denering, I always say your last name wrong. I think you say it wrong. Okay. You don't. But hey, Dave, nice to see you. What's the best way? Man, that's heavy. That's a heavy question. I would say, look, I mean, my studio is state of the art, all the technical issues notwithstanding. And I just got to this level with my own space pretty recently. So somebody that's got a home studio that is capable of recording drums, that is a real calling card, because most home studios do not have the ability to track drums. Most of them are guitar and vocal and play synths and whatnot. Bedroom studios where you can't make this level of noise. So I would say that you advertise on Craigslist that you have the ability to track live drums. That's one thing I would do for sure. A website, obviously. Every music store has a bulletin board, and people still look at them, shockingly. I know. But I would go there. Create a Facebook page, just like we did with Groove Diner After Dark. This is not my personal page. My personal page has got, I don't know how many thousand people on it. Groove Diner After Dark's got a few hundred. This is my business page, if you will. And so because of that, it's separated from my personal stuff, and I can promote just Groove Diner After Dark, just the show. So you should have your own Facebook page, your own Instagram page. I'm a big Twitch guy. I'm becoming more and more that. You should have a Twitch page. All of these places where you can put your brand in front of other people, in front of the people that you're trying to target. That's what I would suggest. It is certainly, depending on where you live, and I think Reggie, didn't you send me this question? I think you did. Reggie lives in Paris, Texas, and somebody somebody in Paris, Texas doesn't have much competition. So it shouldn't take much word of mouth for you to say, hey, I'm the guy that can record your drums. Come to my place. I got great gear. All of that. You can start that word of mouth by targeted ads on social media, etc. Drum cover videos, I don't know that that's necessary for what you're doing. If you're trying to say, look what an awesome drummer I am, check out that I can play other people's drum parts. Yeah, that's how I feel about drum covers. You do that, that'd be fine. But if you're trying to build that sort of reputation as a drum cover guy, but that's not what you're doing. You're trying to say, here's my studio. This is what my studio offers. So that's what I would suggest. I hope that answers your question. Michael Reschke. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Let's come back to that one in just a second there, Eli. Let's go back to the other one. Michael Reschke over here. I'm going to grab this. And this is an interesting question, Michael. How important is a web page? I think that varies not only with the content of the page, but also with what your goal is with it. I don't think anybody can necessarily be taken really, truly seriously without one. Is it going to drive business to you? I don't know that it will. I've picked up a few things through my website. I think it's still necessary to have one, but I don't know that I think it's the only thing. You've got to have a website and social media of all different stripes. I think that's the way to approach it. I certainly would not do it the other way. All right, Eli, let's see that next question. Why is marching band more prevalent than jazz band or orchestra in high schools? Wow, okay. As a marching band geek, which I definitely am, here's what I think about that. I think orchestra instruments are monumentally more expensive. It's more difficult to involve more people at the lower level. Think about the cities where, that have orchestras. They're very, very limited in number. You might have 4 or 5 violins and violin 1, 4 or 5 violin 2, and some violas. But you're talking about in a fairly sizable metro area, you're only going to have 40, 50 musicians. You can have that many in the smallest high school marching band, the absolute smallest one. So you don't have to pay for your own instruments. The school district will do that. The school district will recycle them year over year over year. So you don't, again, that's an expense thing, and it involves far more students at an easier level. Yes, for every marching person that I know, no matter what instrument they play, I probably know 150 marching people for every one orchestra person that didn't ever do marching. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying that's what it is. So for me, it's all about level of involvement. If we can get people involved musically, no matter what it is. And they're cutting funding to the arts left and right because, arts over here, sports over here. And I'm not a sports hater. I'm a football fan. I love that stuff. Okay. So I'm not hating on sports, but funding the arts is something that takes a secondary role in most budgets. And it's much easier to fund a marching band and a concert band. Let's not forget that. The concert band sort of supplants orchestra in school districts. So you can still get the feel of Aaron Copland stuff from there, Keith, yeah, that's probably true as well, huh, Keith? There are more girls in marching band. Band camp is awesome, yes. That's so funny. Okay, so Kendall Johnson, what is it that you're saying? How are we going to stop schools from discontinuing their music programs? This has become a trend. That's exactly what I was just talking about, right? Man, I think we've got to value ourselves. We've talked about this before, valuing what we bring to the table as musicians and what music means to us. It's not just entertainment for the sake of entertainment. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be sitting here if not for marching band. I wouldn't be sitting here if not for my band director in high school. I wouldn't be sitting here if not for having band to go to, because that was where I belonged. And I didn't belong much of anywhere else. So without the aspects of true belonging, and that was my team, that family sense. Even now, I don't talk to very many people from my high school days, but the ones that I do, not all of them, but almost all of them are in some way related to the band program, which is really cool. So yeah, how do we do it? By valuing what we bring to the table and making sure that the powers that be in the administrations understand that they're. Here's what I always say. Let me just cut to the chase. For every person that plays sports in high school, how many of them go on to become professionals? That number is pretty low, right? How many musicians go on to be professionals? Also a pretty low number. However, once you get to a certain point in your life, let's say you're 19, are you ever going to put on a football helmet again if you played football in high school but you weren't able to keep going because you didn't have the talent or skill necessary? But you can always keep playing music until the day you die. So valuing that over valuing sports, again, I'm not a sports hater. Hell, I make my living in sports music. But that is how you do it, is by making sure that the understanding that music is for a lifetime. You can be a sports fan for a lifetime, but you're not going to be an athlete for your life. You can be a musician for life. That's an incredibly important distinction. Okay, so let's see. What else we got over here? That's actually really good to see, Michael Reschke. Most schools provide sticks and mallets there in Florida. That's good to hear. Not a lot do. I know that's always been a fight. When I do drum camps, I've been fortunate enough to be able to bring sticks and mallets from companies, and this year Innovative Percussion has stepped up to the plate big time. Even in COVID land and in COVID era, they're really coming to the table for the kids, and I'm super happy for that. Okay, so three most notable band geeks, huh? Let's see. Buddy Gibbons, Ray Luzier, and Danny Carey. Those are two good names, man, for sure. I'll take that anytime. You'd have no catchy Fox Sports SIGs, nor Korn, nor Tool. That's right. All of that matters. It really does. Okay, I totally get it. All right, let's see what that next question is there. Eli, roll it over there. How'd you get into composing? Okay, composing for me was strangely accidental. I was playing a rock band gig at the Viper Room down in Hollywood on Sunset, and I play traditional grip as we've all talked about, and a guy approached me after the show and he said, "Hey man, you got some marching band in your background?" Yes, I do. And I've told this story before, but ultimately he was commenting on my traditional grip, and he offered the band an opportunity to make some music for Fox Sports. Turned out he worked for Fox Sports Network, and the band wasn't interested, but I was. So as I told you before, I took the meeting myself and learned everything I needed to do based on what he was asking for. Fortunately, I was around a lot of composers and songwriters, and I play piano badly. That was earlier you asked me the question about other instruments do I play. I play piano badly. I play guitar even worse, but I'm a pretty good singer. So I can sing into my phone or into a microphone and just record a melody, record a harmony, whatever, doesn't matter, and save it for later and come back and pick it out on piano. And I do that. That's how I compose, is by creating things in my mind. In fact, it often happens in the shower, and I'll grab my phone sitting over here and I'll sing it into the phone in the shower and set it down, and then later on I'll find it and do my thing here in the studio and compose. I do it all on piano, and that's how I create it. Fortunately, because I'm a good singer, I've got a really strong harmony ear, and the strong harmony ear has really served me well as both a background singer. I sing background on most every project now that I'm not in Nashville. They didn't like me singing in Nashville. They didn't want a singing drummer, whatever, and maybe they just didn't want me. I don't know. But when I got out here, things completely changed, and I started singing again from behind the kit. So my harmony ear is pretty strong, and I've been able to use that in that situation as well. So yeah, Kendall, it sure is. Piano is a percussion instrument, says Kendall. There he is. And yeah, it's absolutely true. People forget that. People don't even realize that most of the time, but it absolutely is a percussion instrument. In fact, I had a piano teacher once who was somewhat snobbish about all of it, and I hit her with it's a percussion instrument. She did not like that at all, but she got over it. She was actually really a sweet lady, but she had not ever considered the fact that it was a percussion instrument. It is. All right, cool. Next up, what we got? We got a whole bunch of questions, just for the record. So, what do we have, Eli? Oh boy, top 5 favorite drummers. Okay, can I just run these down? Number 1, Vinny Colaiuta. He's top number 1. Anybody that can play with Frank Zappa at 20 years old, to Sting for 25 years, Faith Hill, Megadeth. Who else? I mean, who has he not played for? And it's not just that he plays for them; he plays well. He plays to the absolute pinnacle of the instrument. I mean, his work with Randy Waldman is legendary, and so check that out on the Jetsons. Randy Waldman's The Jetsons is absolutely insane. That alone is enough to make you burn your drums. So Vinny's number 1. Yeah, that's right. Herbie Hancock. That's right. That's somebody else he plays for. Thanks for that, Charles. So Vinny's number 1. Stuart Copeland, The Police. It's hard not to put him way up top as well on my pantheon. Liberty DeVito with Billy Joel, the way that he approached songwriter drumming, it's nowhere near as simple as people would have you believe. When you really dig into his drum parts, they are crucial to that successful Billy Joel thing. So it's hard for it's his abilities as a songwriter's drummer are second to none. Steve Smith in Journey, I can't begin to say what Steve Smith meant to me as a kid. The first time I heard Separate Ways and those fills in the middle of it, I'm like, yep, got to be playing some drums, because that was the best freaking thing I'd ever heard. I'd never heard anything like that. It was ridiculous. I mean, come on. That was in the middle of a rock song, in the middle of a pop hit. It was incredible, So those are my top 4. Then it kind of, I'll say Dave Weckl, Gavin Harrison are definitely, right there at the next tier. I know that's 6, but there I could start kind of layering in a few. John Robinson, the way that he plays the groove stuff is it's just so deep, people say to me that I sound like Weckl. I'm never sure how to take that because I want to sound like me, but Weckl's amazing, way better than I'll ever be. So I'll take being a poor man's Weckl, I guess. You know what I mean? So those are my top 5 or 6 or 7 drummers anyway. Chris, what are you saying over here, man? Chris, thank you for joining us tonight, Chris. There's my cursor. There it is. Okay, what is Chris saying here? I got a chance to hang with Biddy 2 summers ago, and Stuart as well, huh? Yeah. So somebody asked me a minute ago, who was that? Where'd it go? It was Odie. Okay, so here, I'm going to tell this story. What was it like to gig with Abe Laboriel Sr.? Hey, Odie, good to see you. Okay, so Chris, you'll like this. I got a phone call one day after a really strange incident. Let me back up. When I lived in Nashville, I got somehow into Dennis Chambers' email list. I still don't really know how. I've never met Dennis. I don't know how that happened, but I did. And it was just hundreds of drummers, and he would send these things out, whatever they were, and we'd all be, that's really funny. And one day I was looking just through the email addresses, and I saw Vinny Colaiuta's email address. I'm like, oh wow, I'm gonna just save that. And I never had any intention of using it, but I just wanted to kind of feather in the cap. There's Vinny's email address. By the way, it's not his email address anymore. But fast forward a few years, and I had moved out here to LA, and I had a friend had died, and it was very, very challenging for me when he died. So I reached out to people. I started reaching out to people saying, you are important to me. Whether I have ever known you, ever met you or not, doesn't matter. You're important to me. What you've done in your life impacted mine. And I sent Vinny a quick little email. Hey, this is who I am. This is what you've meant to me. Thank you very much. Blah, blah, blah. This was at 2 a.m. Like 5 minutes later, he responded which just blew my mind. I mean, my whole body went into convulsions, and we had this little email conversation. I don't know, 5 or 6 or 10 emails or whatever. And subsequently, we had a few more through the course of the next few years. I ended up meeting Vinny at a NAM function with a friend, and he gave me a bear hug in the middle of NAM, and people were like, who's that dude hugging Vinny? And I took it, right? Well, again, fast forward just a little while, and I get a phone call. Hello. Hey, buddy, this is Abe Laboriel Sr. Yeah, I hung up on him. He called back and he's laughing and he goes, hey, no, really, it's Abe. And I went, okay, what's up? And so he starts asking me if I could be available to play a couple of gigs with him. Downtown LA, these were not huge things. These were small gigs. So be sure I'm not overplaying what these were, but they really were huge to me. I mean, this is Abe Laboriel Sr. on the phone, right? And as we were talking, it finally dawned on me, how did you get my number? You don't know me or anything. He goes, oh, well, Vinny was going to do these gigs and he said you could cover, and I had to sit down. I mean, this is Vinny Colaiuta. And so sure enough, on some strange planet, I ended up subbing for Vinny on that gig. I doubt Vinny even remembers that story. I need to hit him up and see if he even remembers that. But it was a huge thing for me. He just went, hey, call this dude. For me, it was a big deal. And again, I'm not best friends with Vinny or anything, but this was the moment that I had where I just couldn't believe that I was living in LA and that I had just gotten this call from this legendary bass player based on the word of my favorite drummer of all time. So to answer the question, what was it like? I've never played with a more generous musician in my life. His bass playing, there's a reason his credits list is as long as my arm, but his pocket was this wide and this deep. I didn't even have to think about keeping time. He had that. I didn't have to think about the feel. He had that. I was just free to play. And it was the most amazing feeling musically that I've had since I moved to LA. It was that good. So that was a phenomenal moment for me. He never called me back again after, I think we did 4 shows together. So maybe I sucked, but I don't care. I got to do it. So I was good with it, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Oh man. So let's see, Kendall, what are you saying here? If I were an avid fan-ish, I'd ask you, how much did your house cost? And do you drive a Range Rover? I will answer half of that question. Yes, I still drive a Range Rover. That's funny though. Oh man. Okay, what else we got there, Eli? Hit me up over there. How often do you talk to your endorsement companies when you're not getting product? Peisty pretty regularly. I talk to Tim Shahady. He's a Vinny Colaiuta fan, so we send each other Vinny files all the time. And hey, check this out. Have you heard this? So we're doing that a lot. I talked to Steve Vega at DW a bit as well. He's a super good guy, and he's somebody that I really like his songwriting. He's a gifted songwriter, and so we talk about that quite a bit. Mark Branson, who's now with Innovative Percussion, is a close friend. He drives a Range Rover too, so we have the Range Rover connection, and he was with Remo for a lot of years, so we've built a relationship over the course of many years, and so I talked to Mark a lot about non-drumstick related stuff. And Chris Hart at Remo, Roger Johnson. I talked to Chris about life, love, and the pursuit of all things. I talked to Roger about life, love, and the pursuit of all things. So I'd say the answer to your question is quite a lot. One of the interesting things to me is that I guess it's been 2 weeks ago now. There are very few pieces of gear that I'm more passionate about than my in-ear monitors. These guys. These are Futuresonics MG6 HX, the Helix version. Futuresonics is owned by a man named Marty Garcia. Marty is the guy who invented in-ear monitors. And he did that with Todd Rundgren back in the late 70s, early 80s, because they were having a lot of problems with stage volume, everything's loud, blah, blah, blah. So Marty figured out how to take a speaker, a full-range speaker, and go and shrink it to fit in your ear. That's how brilliant Marty is. everybody talks about drivers this and drivers that. My in-ears don't have drivers. My in-ears are speakers, full range speakers. And they sound like listening to the best quality recording you've ever heard. Marty does no advertising. It's all word of mouth. And when you look at his client list, it'll make you want to sit down because it's all the heaviest of the heavies. And somehow I got involved with him. Well, to tell you, why am I telling this story? Because about 3 weeks ago now, my phone rang and it was Marty. Hey, just checking in with you, man. I wanted to see how you were doing. That means the world to me. That's part of the relationship. A lot of this stuff people don't know is that we're all, the music industry is incredibly small and we all know each other or we know somebody that knows somebody. That's why you hear guys making things up and you know pretty quickly who's truthful and who's not, because it doesn't take long for things to unravel. It doesn't take long for us to understand, hey, that guy's not on the level. So when Marty called me, it just makes me feel, well, it makes me feel like I'm important in an industry that's kind of designed to make you feel like you're much less than. You know, it's incredibly difficult to navigate sometimes. Reggie Dowse, what are you saying? Reggie Dawes. I don't know why I say Dowse, because it's AUS, I guess. Of all the musicians and bands in the world, what one band would you want to be full-time drummer for, or would you rather start your own band with anyone of your choosing? Animal Cloud. That's right, Keith Tannenbaum. I want to be drummer in Animal Cloud. If I could pick outside of Animal Cloud, if I could pick any one band. See, the problem is all my favorite bands have my favorite drummers. I'd want to play with Sting. I mean, that's a given. Everybody wants to play with Sting. Everybody of a certain age and a certain ability wants to play with Sting, and I am of those things. So he would definitely be way up at the top for me. I'd love to play with Dave Matthews. I could never fill Carter Beaufort's shoes, but I'd love to play with Dave Matthews just to see what that was about, you know? Yes, I know, Keith. I do know. I am, in fact, a sweet, sweet man. But I want to play with your band, dude. You need to stop playing drums. Stop it. You'll play some piano or some guitar or something. Let me play drums. I can bang while you make music. Ha! No. Anyway, it's really good stuff. I do love his stuff. Yeah, so that's a tough question, Reggie. I guess that I'm gonna leave it at Sting, because that's not a band, but a gig I would love to do before I die. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, what's up next over there, Eli? What you got? How long or often do you practice? Do I lie or do I tell the truth? I practice 12 hours a day. Okay, no. The reality of it is this. I don't get to practice nearly as much as I used to because I'm working here. I'm sorry, that comment threw me. I'll come back to that. I'm working here so much that I don't have the time to practice. When I do have the time to practice, I generally don't want to because I've been working or I've been messing with other things or I'm still working on Ernie Becchione's new audiobook, and it's an absolutely fantastic audiobook, but it's a big project, so it takes a lot of my time. I want to make sure that I take the necessary time to take care of my body, to take care of my diet, all that stuff. So it gets challenging. The answer is I don't have a set amount of time that I practice every day. But I do have sticks in my hands every day. I do sit down. I have one thing that I do every day to see how I'm feeling. I play a variation of the Rosanna Shuffle, halftime shuffle. And that tells me, that's sort of a check-in for me. And for the record, you guys can't see this, but anyway, right here, there's, can we get that other, there we go. So yeah, this is a secondary pair of hats that I've got right here in the middle, right here. So this is where I shuffle from, because I don't shuffle well over here. When I cross over and I'm playing traditional, I dropped my stick earlier. Yeah. So two different sticks. Oh, that's always fun. Anyway, when I'm playing here, playing traditional grip, there, that happens a lot. So very often in the shuffle, I will switch over and play match grip. But I still prefer to be spread out over here for some reason, even if I'm playing match. I don't play match often, you guys know that. But that's my check-in. Okay, we can go back. That's my check-in on the day. So if I'm not feeling very good when I sit down and do that, and typically it's my first hit of the day, I'll sit down and do that. I'll put my coffee down over there and come in and sit down and play. Typically, I know within a few minutes if I need to spend some time. And I try to at least get in a half hour of dedicated, focused on things I'm not any good at practice. And that's the key. Things I'm not any good at. If I was focused solely on things that I am good at, then that's not practicing. That's just playing along and having fun, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not practicing. So I try to get a half hour in. Dave, yes. Next question, Eli. It came back. Okay, what is or was the hardest thing the music industry commanded of you that wasn't necessarily music related? That is a big freaking question. I'm going to say a couple of things. This feels like an old late night learning, doesn't it? I'm going to say a couple of things. Moving all over the country, that's not music related, but necessary. It really is challenging to leave your life, your family, your friends, and move. I moved to Athens, Georgia, then to Nashville, then to LA. That's a difficult thing. It demands a lot of you of your finances. It demands a lot of your personality. It demands so much sacrifice. I've told the story of me crawling around under houses trapping skunks. That's a real story. I'd get $5 per trapped skunk. Some days I'd get $5 total for a whole day. I'd crawl under the houses and I'd get $5 if there was a skunk. I would take that $5 and go buy ramen noodles or eat a cheeseburger or whatever. So that level of physical sacrifice. I lived in some absolute, just awful places, especially when I was in Nashville. I lived in some terrible spots in Nashville. The houses were not great. I had roommates constantly. So the comfort level was low because the hunger level was high. And I would never not pursue something. There was never a moment when I went, yep, this is too much. I've had more too much moments after I became successful. Go figure. I had one last week. That's it. I'm done. Last week I was ready to just call the whole thing off. It's just, it was one of those, dude, I just can't handle this anymore kind of moments. But that's the thing, the sacrifice, the sacrifice of relationships, because the old stereotype, and this is because I'm a man and I've always dated women, I'm going to tell it from that perspective. I've heard it from the other one as well. But I ran across women where I thought there might be some potential, and the ultimatum of music or me, of touring or home with me, that ultimatum happened more often than I ever expected it to. And that was actually an indicator to me that was not the right person for me. And my wife, Natalie, we met while I was touring, or we met while I was touring. So she knew immediately what she was in for. And she's always been monumentally supportive of my musical life and career. And like last week when I was beside myself over how bad things went. I had an outpouring of support from everybody, from so many people, but Natalie wouldn't even let me go down the bad road. She was like, buy what you got to buy, get what you got to get, fix what you got to fix. And that's exactly what we're doing, So I think that's probably the biggest thing. So is that you have to be willing to make deep sacrifices. Living in your mom and dad's basement, if you live in Dubuque, Iowa, not going to get you anywhere. If you happen to live in New York or LA and you live in your mom and dad's basement, that's one thing. Look, good for you. But if you live in Montpelier, Vermont, you're not going to be able to live in your mom and dad's basement and be successful at this. At least I don't think you are. What are you saying over here, Kendall? Top 5 favorite foods. Pizza. No. I do like pizza. I really do. Mediterranean food in particular, I'm a pretty big fan of tabbouleh and lamb. I'm a big fan of that. If you want to make me really happy, a truly great cheeseburger. I mean a great cheeseburger. It doesn't have to be fancy either. A truly great cheeseburger. There was this place in Nashville called Brown's Diner. It looked condemned. I wouldn't walk in there, Oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure they were cooking the burgers in grease from 1927. But oh my gosh, they were good. I don't know what crack dust. Holy cow. So good. So I would say those are way up at the top. Number one, though, with a bullet, without question, fried chicken. I am a massive fan of fried chicken. I will eat fried chicken today and tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that and the day after that. And I make a pretty killer fried chicken. These guys that are sitting in here, they can tell you I can make some serious fried chicken. See, this is what I'm saying. I've got 12 herbs and spices because mine's one better than the Colonel's. I'm just saying. And it really does. It really fried chicken is that's number one with a bullet. That's only 4. I could go on and on and on and on, but those are my 4 like bad foods. I also love barbecue ribs, so there is that. So there's 5. Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I totally am with you on that. It's great that your wife supports you no matter what, and she's a musician. No kidding. So sometimes that doesn't work. It's good that it's working for you. I love that. That's awesome, man. Awesome. Eli, how are we doing? How are we doing on time? Oh, we're good. Okay, so what's next? Do you have any suggested practice routines for people who don't have a lot of time? Yes, I do, but I'm not going to answer that because I want to show you. I'd rather show you in another episode. We're going to do a practice episode. Write that down. We're going to do a practice episode where I show you my practice routine and break it down into 20-minute intervals. So, for instance, John Geiger was here yesterday, and John plays with the Scotty Mac band, and they've got a big gig opening up for somebody. I won't say who, but they are going to be opening up for somebody big, and he wanted to spend some really solid time getting ready for the gigs. So I gave him my drum clinic routine. When I am getting ready to do a drum clinic or an honest to God video, this is what I do. I have this one thing that I do, and I can break it down into 10-minute intervals, 20-minute intervals, or an hour long, depending on what you got. So I broke it down into 20s for him. I want to do that in an episode upcoming, and I think that's going to be a really good one. So I'll definitely show you. Yeah, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's going to be a great one, and we'll break that down. And that leads me to something else too. I've been asked a lot, why don't I play more often on the show? Because when Late Night Learning, which was the precursor to this, began, I was playing a lot. In fact, what I was doing was playing things I was bad at. How can I get better at this thing? And I was putting it out to the internet and whatnot. And I have a thin skin. I do. And I don't deal with trolls very well. I tend to just go, I can't stand them. But I was getting trolled pretty hard for being a bad drummer. And that started to take a toll on me a little bit mentally. So it's like, I don't want to keep doing that. But why I don't play more is not because of that. I don't know why I told that story. But why I don't play more is because the technical side of it to do this show with the interviews, because I want to hear from the people that I'm interviewing. There's not a lot of time left after the interviews. Initially, the idea was to have the interviews last 20 minutes or so. Well, they go a lot longer because we're engaged in a conversation and you guys are engaged interacting with us. I've even thought about pre-recording them, but I think we need this live interaction thing. it really makes for a special show, and I'm always grateful when you guys interact with the guests and whatnot. So I don't want to cut that short by playing drums more in my own show, and maybe I'll start doing one show a month that's nothing but drumming, and then we have 3 shows that are interviews and whatnot. So these are things that we're still working out. Remember, this is season 1, if you will, and we're still working out all the different angles and technical sides of it. So that's the answer to that. What's next? Yeah, I sounded like President Bartlett right then. Do you have any strange little pieces of gear that are crucial to your drumming but don't get seen often? Well, now I've got to look around the drums, obviously. I do. Okay. Yes, I do. There's so this little guy. Let me get the water bottle off the snare drum head. Sorry. This is a snare weight. It's 1 pound of solid brass. Weighs a pound. This little thing. That tells you how small it is. It fits in the palm of my hand here. It's got a leather insert right here, and there are several different leather inserts. Hey, Brian. There's one right there on the green snare drum. Can you hand that to me? I'll show you that one right there on that green drum. It's right there. That thing you see right there. Yeah. Thank you. So this is another insert right here. This is they call this the 70s insert. You stick that in here, and it sits in here, and you put it down, and boom. So what this is it's a damper, but I don't do a lot of damping. You guys know that. Why I like this 1 pound is because it actually acts as almost as a natural compressor on the snare drum head. So when I put it on the snare drum head right here, it sits there and it puts that 1 pound of pressure on the head, and it changes not only the amount of ring. So let me engage the snares. So here we are with this. You hear that ring? Let me get this on here too. It dries it up just a little bit, but what it does more is it puts that pressure on the head, and it creates this strange compression feeling to my hand, and it really creates it makes the playing the drum really pleasant. The drum gives you back more of what you're putting into it. So I really like the snare weight. I don't have it mounted tonight, but very often I've got a saw blade. And when I say saw blade, I mean a saw blade from a skill saw. I've got an old, it started out its life as, what are those, 10 inches or 12 inches? Now it's about 7 inches. So whoever had it and was sawing with it down that far. But it was my stepfather had it in his shop when I was, I don't know, 20 or something. And I walked in, and I have this tendency to hit everything. I've got the greatest sounding salad bowl in the house. But I have this tendency to hit things, and the saw blade was sitting on his workbench, and I picked it up and went, and I hit it, and it goes like that. And it was the greatest sounding thing. So I looked at him like, dude, I'm taking this. And then so I've had that saw blade ever since, and it usually sits over here atop this cymbal in its own little spot, but I don't happen to have it mounted tonight, so it is what it is. But those two things are pretty constantly with me. The stick bag that's down here, show me this top shot. This stick bag is really crucial to my world. This is a cack sack. Yeah, I know, Ed Cacavalli, he can't help that name. But this is a cack sack. It's all handmade, leather, 2 colors, 2 tones, and I keep business cards in here, and pens, and drum keys, and my in-ears go here. And obviously it holds quite a lot of drumsticks in here. So, innovative percussion. Oh, sorry about that. Innovative percussion drumsticks in there. That stick bag, I actually use that as my carry-on quite a lot when I go flying places, because it holds... my wife actually had it made for me, and it carries an iPad, a laptop, drumsticks, in-ears, and it's got an outer pocket for little things that you need when you're flying. So it works really great as a carry-on. It straps across my body instead of this way. And it's actually really a nice carry, So that's pretty cool. Hey, Toby, nice to see you. I was wondering where you were tonight. Michael, yeah, snare weights dampers are just really, really, really good. They do such a great job there. Um, yeah, there's our catchphrase for the show right there, Kendall. That's catchy. He says, "I'm Buddy Gibbons, and I have a tendency to hit things." Or maybe it sounds like a pill advertisement. Or an attorney. "I'm Buddy Gibbons, and I have a tendency to hit things." Yeah, there it is. That's the voice, right? Okay, good. Good, good, good. Oh, okay. What's up next? What's up next? How'd you choose your gear? One thing, sound. End of story. Sound. Remo drumheads sound better than everything else that I've ever played. Peisty cymbals sound unbelievable. I missed that sound for many years. And it's always a challenge because the folks at the other company were super good to me for a long time. But the fact is, I like the sound of the Peisties. They just sound so great. DW was something I didn't know I was going to like. Everybody thinks of something about people think of a particular sound with DW, but that's just so wrong. When I met John Good and he said, "We can build you whatever to sound whatever way you want," boy, was he right. And I've got two freaking amazing sounding drum sets. Absolutely phenomenal. Sennheiser mics, I don't really even need to explain that. Sennheiser is the best microphone company on the planet. And they own Neumann too. So between Sennheiser and Neumann, I'm pretty well covered. You know what I mean? What am I forgetting? Let me look around. I do this all the time. What am I forgetting? I wear Spy sunglasses. I have to deal with Spy, and they're Happy Lens. Yes, that's right. That's what it's called. The Happy Lens is a really great lens that's very good on the eyes. I have light colored eyes. My eyes are light green, and I'm very, very sun sensitive. So that's how I pick those, because the Happy lenses are for people like me that have sun sensitive eyes. So yeah, that's how I chose my gear. It truly, the sledge pad in my kick drum, again, I wasn't looking for anything like that, but hey, it happened. I got it. I tried it. I freaking love it. So there you go. Cool. What's next? How are we doing on questions, and how are we doing on time? We're still good. Oh, when you see someone killing it on the drums, how does that make you feel? I'm gonna need a drink for this one. Where did my bottle go? It fell over. Does it make you feel inspired, envious, jealous, judgmental? I think it kind of depends. I'll tell you this. Don't send me any drummer kid videos. Just don't do it. Okay? I don't want to see any videos of little kids playing drums. None of us do. We were all that little kid. We just didn't have YouTube when we were little kids. So what I'm really getting at with that is this. I'm usually pretty well inspired. What happens is I'll see somebody really killing it, and I'll want to, take lighter fluid to my drums and strike a match until I go, okay, what were they actually doing? And then I'll sit down and I'll find myself inspired to figure it out. And very often that's what happens. Right now, to this day, I take a drum lesson a day. Why? Because I have YouTube. So I sit down and I'll find something on YouTube that I'm not any good at. And I'll come out here and do my thing until I figure it out. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 days. Sometimes it might take a month. But that's the whole point. The whole point is to keep getting better. It used to make me jealous and angry, but then I realized what they bring to the table is not what I bring to the table, and vice versa. So I can only bring to the table what I bring to the table. I can only do what I do. They can't do what I do. I can't do what they do. So it's important that we're both represented. It's important that we both have a place in the music industry, and I think we do. I think watching truly great players is inspirational for most anyone that wants to be a truly great player. When you get past this certain point where you go, I want to be the best drummer that ever lived, that's not really how things are going to work. It's really about making sure that you are your very best. So if you can watch somebody play and they inspire you, there you go. That's the key. Kendall, what are you asking me over here? What brand is your throne? My throne, I can't get up or I'd show it to you because I am absolutely locked into it, is a Motion Pro. It is split seat, so one cheek on either side with a split down the middle. Yeah, man. Show the overhead, Eli. I bet you can kind of see it, maybe. Nah, you can't. It blends in. I can't get up. Seriously, I've got so much stuff on my backside that I can't get up. Hello, Terry Linder. Thank you for joining. How are you? My throne is a Motion Pro. It is sitting on a hydraulic base, so it's very bouncy and movie and whatnot. It's great for the spine. In fact, my office chair that Eli is sitting over there is also a Motion Pro. So I'm a big fan of that. And my drum throne has a back, so I can lean back a little bit. So that's my drum throne. So yeah, what's our next question, Eli? Why do you still play traditional grip? Because I'm better at it than I'm at match grip. That's really it. I'm not a great match grip player. I'm better at it than I once was, but I'm never going to be a truly great match grip player. And I'm a pretty seriously good traditional player. So that's why I'm better at traditional than I am at match. And I find that it serves me very well musically. There are times, like for instance, show the top here. For instance, I got to stop hitting that. If I'm wanting to play a cross stick, right? So take a look. Butt end here, nice full thick sound. Flip it back, and I am in traditional grip. Just like that. So that in and of itself is a reason enough to do it, because I can't stand to see guys doing this on a cross stick thing with the tip going forward. That's just so wrong. Take a listen. It's just so much better with the butt end, so much more full. So anyway, why? Because I'm better at it. I learned it at a particular time, and it opened up a whole lot of musical doors for me. And would I ever do anything else? Yeah, but not necessarily. Okay, so what are you saying over here, Toby? Since I'm late, is that the pretty pastel colored kit? No, this is not. This is the black natural burst one. You can't really even see it, but it's the burst one. It's also pretty though. What's the purpose of the holes in this one cymbal? This one here. It changes the sound. This particular one is the PSTX. It is meant to sound trashy and literally like a trash can as much as possible. And the more holes you put in it, the trashier it becomes. So that's what the holes are for. It literally changes it from a crash cymbal to a trash cymbal with the holes. Yeah, right. So that's what the holes are for. Cool. What's the next question? How are we doing on questions anyway? Let's see it. Do you still enjoy NAMM? Absolutely. I'm a NAMM fiend. Here's a little thing for you though. I go as an artist, not as an exhibitor. So because of that, I don't get as frustrated with it. I have the ability to leave the room or whatever. I love NAMM. I love the social aspect of it, the parties after, getting to see people that I only get to see once a year. I hope we can do it in 2022. Maybe. It'll definitely be different, but I would love to see everybody again in 2022. But here's what happens. I go 3 days minimum, but most of the time I go 4 days. And people are like, how do you do that? By going part of the day. I don't get there until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I'm only there for a few hours. I see a few people, go to the after hours stuff, and go back. That's how I do it. I'll have business stuff in the mornings, meetings, go hang out, have coffee, say hi to these friends I'm talking about, whatever, and then push things forward into the show. And I do that. Everybody thinks I'm there all the time, but I'm really not. So I've kind of worked my own little system out with that. So if you see me there in the mornings, you know that I've got a meeting, because I am not a morning person. I hate waking up. Don't care what time it is. Don't want to wake up. Can't stand it. So the later it is, the better. And that's how I feel about NAMM. So there you go. What we got? Oh boy, the most important question. Any single piece of advice for someone breaking into the business? We're gonna call this the last question. The business is made to make you quit. The business is made to make you feel bad about yourself. The business is made to see you fail. You're going to do all of those things. Get back up and do it again the next day. Because when being a musician is who you are, there really are no other alternatives. I'm a smart guy with a lot of things that I could have done with my life. And I chose to do something that is ridiculously difficult. But it's because I felt that I had a calling. And the truth of the matter to me is that being a musician is every bit as valid a career choice as being a doctor, lawyer, whatever, plumber. But you don't graduate from high school on, May 30th, and then June 1st, become a doctor or a lawyer or a plumber. You have to go through an apprenticeship or 4 years of college plus medical school or 4 years of college plus law school. And then you become a low-level grunt at a law firm. Let's go the law route here. Who works the worst part of the job for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years until you become someone of value to the firm that you're working with or whatever. And that's what gets lost in music and acting too, by the way, the arts in general, is it's very difficult to be an overnight success. People don't expect that of any other profession, but they do expect it of the arts. Why is that? That seems completely wrong to me. So put in the work. Know that it probably will take you time. You might be one of the lucky few. Stay off American Idol and The Voice. Put in the real work. And never waver from your goals. If you're willing to do that, you've got a better than average shot at least being able to make a living as a musician. I am not a famous musician. I am a successful musician. Well, that was loud. I don't even know what that was. I'm not a famous guy. You wouldn't know who I was if not for this ridiculousness that we're doing on Thursday night. But the point is that all I ever wanted was the respect of my peers. And I think I've got that. So find your goal, set it, be willing to crawl under houses and trap skunks for $5 so that you can eat, and pursue it relentlessly. And with that, I bid you adieu. I will see you next week with Herman Matthews as my special guest. And I thank you so much for giving me another shot this week after all of the technical crazy that we had last week. Next week we will be ready to roll with all the new gear, so it should be a wonderfully new experience, I hope. And we will see you then. Talk to you.